In 2016, an ICE agent committed suicide in New York, a customs and ICE agent. I remember seeing the story. Do you guys remember that? 2 years ago, the ICE agent killed himself on a bridge. Everybody said he was a disgruntled employee, or I forget what the excuse they gave for his suicide. He left a suicide note that was published in the news. Well, when people read it, they thought he was freaking nuts, right? Let me read you. The America I grew up in and cherished has been murdered by its own federal government. Our Constitution has become meaningless and our laws politicized so badly they are no longer enforced except for political purposes. Our elected officials are, to a person, utterly corrupt and completely devoid of any love or respect for the country which pays them. To them, everything is about getting and keeping power and making illicit money from backroom deals. I was hired to enforce the law, to capture and deport people who come to this country against our laws. But now, if I dare to do that, I face being suspended or fired because our president refuses to faithfully execute the duties of his office. And I believe it was Obama the president then? Instead, I come to work each day and collect a paycheck twice a month for intentionally doing little to nothing. I cannot and will not be a party to this fraud, to this usurpation of the law, or to the despicable politicians betraying our nation. Now, okay, he seems like a disgruntled employee. Listen to this next part of his suicide note. If the American people knew what this government was planning, they would rise up and overthrow it. If I or anyone else in the federal government revealed what is coming, we would be killed anyway. So now I will reveal what I know. We, in federal law enforcement, have been drilling for several years to control riots and uprisings from a coming financial collapse and widespread bank failures. The drills involve life-sized images of American men, even women and children, whom we are told to shoot for practice and get used to it. We have been told that the economy is terminally ill and will fail in 2016. We are also told the banks are all insolvent and the FDIC doesn't have nearly enough funds to bail out depositors. We are told these events are unavoidable and it is imperative that the government survive when the people rise up over this. It is imperative that the government survive when the people rise up over this. What's that tell you? They know that we are gonna raise hell when they do this reset. And they've been preparing. When the collapse takes place, detention camps created under the FEMA Rex 84 program in the 1980s to house illegal aliens whom we were going to deport will instead be used to imprison American citizens whom the government feels constitute a threat. American citizens will be rounded up without warrants and imprisoned without a trial for God knows how long. These camps have been equipped to carry out Hitler-scale killings and an actual purge of American citizens by the very government which they themselves created and pay for. And I cannot be a party to this. Is this what Mr. Patriot's been warning me about? He's been telling me people like me, the Patriots, the YouTubers with the loud voice, they're gonna take us first, right before the grid goes down, or the internet shuts off, or right before it gets kicked off. The government knows the military will rise up to stop this. Our military is being deployed overseas and intentionally involved in foreign fights so they cannot be here to help Americans. This is why certain ammunition and weaponry has been removed from state-level National Guard armories and over 1 billion rounds of hollow point ammunition have been bought by the federal government. The states themselves have been disarmed of military-grade firepower so they cannot defend themselves from the federal activities. This is also why local police departments have been militarized and provided with armored vehicles and weapons of war, the note says. When the inevitable collapse begins to take place, electric power to the entire country will be shut off. as will all forms of communication. All banks will be immediately closed. No one will be able to get any money because all the ATMs will be offline. Credit, debit, and EBT cards will not function. Anyone without cash will have no way to get any. The emergency alert system will be used to take over all broadcast stations and tell the public that this is a result of a cyber attack. But while the American people patiently await things to get back to normal, the government will unleash roundups of citizens they deem militants or dangerous. With all civilian communications out and all TV and radio stations taken over by the emergency alert system, by the time word spreads of what is taking place, the government will already have the upper hand. Every federal prison has been outfitted with lethal gas systems. When things go bad, all prisoners in all prisons will be placed in their cells on lockdown. Prison staff will depart the facility, and certain designated person will trigger a lethal gas system. All federal prisoners, regardless of their crime or their sentence, will be gassed to death in their cells. Once the gas clears, the dead will be removed, and the prisons will then be used to house citizens who fight against the federal onslaught. So intent is the government to succeed that they have recruited priests, rabbis, and clerics from various religions to quote appropriate scriptures about obeying government. They are being trained to tell people not to fight back and that their best hope is to pray. Executive Order 13603 about National Defense Resources Preparedness. This 10-page document is a blueprint for a federal takeover of the economy. Specifically, Obama's plan involves seizing control of all commodities and products that are capable of being ingested by either human beings or animals, all forms of energy, all forms of civil transportation, all usable water from all sources, health resources, drugs, biological products, medical devices, materials, facilities, health supplies, services, equipment, forced labor, as the executive order delicately refers to military consumption. Moreover, federal officials would issue regulations to prioritize and allocate these resources. We in federal law enforcement have also been told that the government has a full database of all so-called preppers. These people will be dealt with first by armed federal agents coming to take their guns, their food stocks, so food can be redistributed as the government sees fit. And that's all of the suicide note that's in this article. I don't know if there's more.